For the month of March, I'm focusing on what full-time travel really looks like. And this is helpful to set your expectations about the lifestyle from everywhere from getting started to actual life day to day on the road. Today's episode is for those of you who really want to travel full-time, but just can't get past how overwhelming it is to figure out how and where to start. Welcome to How to Travel Full-Time, the podcast that helps you turn your dream of full-time travel into a realistic and sustainable lifestyle. I'm your host, certified professional coach, TEDx speaker, and New York Times featured travel lifestyle strategist, Heather Markel. I'm excited to get you motivated and going with tips, real-life stories, and strategies from someone who's been living the lifestyle since 2018. Let's jump in. If you have ever thought about taking that I'll travel full-time someday dream and put it into reality, and where you sat down and you tried to get serious about making it happen and started thinking something like, okay, let me figure out what I need to do. You probably lasted like 20 minutes. Because the second you start, you realize there are a lot of moving pieces. Like, what do you do with your stuff? What about taxes? Health insurance? How do I get that? And how long am I even going for? This is usually the moment you're going to close the laptop and think, okay, this is just too much. I'm going to deal with it later. So today I want to talk about why getting started feels so overwhelming and what's actually going on there. Most people I work with understand that logistics are foundational. We all know you're not naive, and I'm sure you're not thinking that this will magically sort itself out, because it won't. The problem is not that you don't know that the logistics matter. The problem is that you don't know things like, what's the right order to handle those logistics? How do they all connect to each other? Which ones are urgent and which ones can wait? And there's that awful one that I think is true when you're trying to do something new, which is, what is it you don't know that you need to know? Because how would you type that into Google if you can't figure out what it is? So trying to sort through all of this while you're working full-time and managing your current life is mentally exhausting. And I'm the perfect example. I was so rooted in my six-figure corporate job that the idea of traveling for more than just a vacation sounded absolutely nuts at the time. I would write in my journal about this dream, and I told a few close friends about it. But actually make it happen, all I could focus on was really my fear of quitting my job. And then I'd build up all of these negative stories in my mind about what would happen if I did. So like most people, I just stayed stuck in my unsatisfying job until I realized I could not stick it out any longer. So if you're like I was, I think it's completely normal to stall on making what seems like a huge transition. It's just a lot easier to put it off and put it off and put it off some more. So let's look at what typically happens when you do make a valid attempt to start trying to sort through this and figure it out. You'll probably start with one question. So maybe it's health insurance. How do you get health insurance? And then while you're researching that, you find that leads you to, well, I got to figure out how long am I traveling? And then as you try to figure that out, you realize, well, wait, will this have an impact on my taxes? Because now my residency is going to be different. And then you have to wonder, well, what if I sell my stuff? Would that impact anything? And what mailing address do I use? And then maybe you switch tabs. You have this spreadsheet that you started and it's getting bigger and bigger. So you switch tabs now and realize, let's go look at visas, which leads you to figuring out, oh gosh, I need to know how long I'm going to stay somewhere, even though you're not even sure where you're going yet. And that connects to how long you're traveling, which connects back to money. Whew. All right, so you see everything is connected. And without a framework, it feels kind of like trying to assemble a puzzle without knowing what the final picture is supposed to look like. Now, there are a core set of things that you have to take care of. I already mentioned a few, right? Like figuring out how long you want to travel, figuring out taxes, figuring out what to do with your stuff. And I could list out the million things that you should think about handling before you start full-time travel. But see, then for each one of them, all of the how do I do that questions come up. Not to mention, what are the best resources to take care of that? And I mean, I could keep going with the rabbit hole you go down. So really, you can begin to see that a long to-do list, instead of inspiring you to take action, will have the opposite effect. And then instead of inspiring you, it's going to overwhelm you because it'll feel like a long, heavy, never-ending list that you don't feel like doing. So if you've been researching these areas up till now and realize that you have not been able to dig in, this is why. Because having the what isn't enough. Now, what adds even more to the complexity and the heaviness that you feel when you try to dig in is that you're trying to plan a future lifestyle while you're fully immersed in your current one. Don't take this lightly, right? You have a job, you have responsibilities, appointments, obligations. So every time you try to focus on planning to travel full time, your brain has to do like somersaults. It's like a mind-bending switch to try to get into this other mode, which is, to put it mildly, overwhelming. So it's not that you can't handle the logistics, it's that you don't have a structured way to tackle them yet. Now, what people tend to find really helpful is to make the chaos feel more orderly. So instead of a giant to-do list, having one area to focus on, one area at a time, and a clear understanding of why each step is important and how to take care of it. Because if you focus on one clear step at a time, then taking a break from your current life feels manageable. And if it takes you an hour, a day, or a week to do each step, that's fine, because you're actually getting something done towards creating your dream life instead of just dreaming about it. And this is why I created the Travel Lifestyle Launchpad, which is sponsoring this week's episode. This is the perfect place to turn all of those big how and where do I start questions into easy to implement actions. As a certified professional coach, I know from countless clients that when you're ready to stop being stuck, it's the small, realistic actions that move you from feeling like you're spinning your wheels to realizing that you're gaining momentum and ready to go. And that's what the Travel Lifestyle Launchpad is all about. It's actually designed to move at the same pace you do. If you want one action a day, done. If you prefer one action a week, you can do that. Each action shows up when you do. And the more you get done, the closer you are to making full-time travel a reality. And if you're in a hurry to pull things together, or you have a complex situation that you need to weigh with the planning, then private coaching allows us to sort through those specifics together. So check out the show notes for more information on both these paths. I want to leave you with a story this week that I hope will inspire you. And it's related to that switch between, real life and this dream that you have of traveling more. So about a year before I quit to travel full time, when it was definitely on my mind, but I still at this point am not quite believing that it can be a reality. Well, I took a trip to Sedona, Arizona, It was my 4th time there. I loved Sedona. All the gorgeous landscapes, the energy vortexes, there's just so much to love. So, as was usual for any of my vacations, I had such a wonderful time that I just didn't feel like coming home. I had rented a car from Hertz, and when I returned the car at the airport, the agent who helped me check it back in, he asked how my trip was. Well, so I told him. It was so good, I didn't feel like returning home. And you know what he said in response? He said, "You don't have to. You can turn the car around and stay as long as you like." I laughed, but he didn't. And in that moment, I realized he wasn't joking. He was completely serious. And he was right. And I actually visualized turning the car around. Like, hopefully not busting the tires on those spikes that come up. And just going down the freeway and just staying. And as I mentally sifted through all of my responsibilities back home, because one part of me is down the road, I've left the building. The other part of me is like cycling through, oh my God, I have so much to do when I get back. I've got my job. I had a doctor appointment the next day. But something clicked for me, and I realized I had created all of those responsibilities, which meant that I could recreate them. And this was a really important shift in my thinking that helped guide me to taking my first steps towards creating a life of travel. So I hope maybe that might inspire you towards yours. Now, next episode, we're going to talk about travel pace and how deciding how long you stay somewhere affects lots of other decisions. I'll see you there. Have a wonderful week. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening. If you're ready to start living the full-time travel lifestyle, or you're already doing it and you want to make it last longer, I'd like to invite you to the Full-Time Travel Academy. It's where I offer training and coaching that helps you get clear on how to start, how to afford, and how to sustain a full-time travel lifestyle. Learn more at www.fulltimetravelacademy.com. Have a beautiful week.